What's up, everyone? So, here with Barnett, the
Okay, so today's topic, right? If you've been paying attention to the last class, you've been doing the homework, you've been reading a book, you shouldn't have any problem understanding or, making progress in this class, right? So, what's the topic for today? Well, we know we on supply and demand, first of all. So, I'll just write that out, right? We know what supply and demand is. We know what supply and demand look like. We know the characteristics of supply and demand, right? So now what we want to go over, okay. So now what we want to go over is basically one of the confluences we use to validate a supply and demand zone. Because you're gonna have zones, right, that looks perfect, but they're not valid, as in they're not useful, there's a low chance of the zone actually working out. Because in order for a zone to be valid or to be confirmed, it has to have um, it has to have had accomplished certain objectives, right? So the one of the conferences we're gonna go over today is the removal of another zone, right? So supply and demand zones could be validated by a couple of different scenarios, right? One of the ways we use, one of the methods we use to identify a supply and demand zone, or to confirm a supply and demand zone, basically that zone has to remove another zone, right? So what I mean by that, right? So we know we have demand, right? And we know we have supply, right? And we know price is in the middle, right? So just a quick easy example. Let's say we have a drop base rally scenario, right? Now, yes, we have this drop. Yes, we have this base, right? We have the drop, we have the base, we have the departure, right? Now, just having a drop base rally or drop base departure is not enough to make that zone valid, right? The zone has to accomplish something for it to be valid, right? And one of those things that it needs to accomplish is the removal of another zone. So basically, demand remove supply or supply remove demand. And what do I mean by this, right? So let's say this supply, right here, was a drop base drop, right? So let's say that's supply, right? And we had a drop base drop. That supply is already valid, right? So now, basically, in order for this zone, right? We know this zone is potential. Right now, this zone is potential demand, right? Potential demand. It's not demand until it removes a supply zone, right? It's only is simply potential demand. The only time you would consider that zone demand is when it removes a supply zone, right? And what do we mean by that? Simply the price has to push past the entire supply zone and basically eat up all these others, right? Basically devour all the supply, right? So now we could go long at that demand because that demand is considered valid, right? Because that demand accomplished one of the accomplishments we have set in stone as the rule, right? So if, let's say, if that demand did not completely remove the supply, then when the price retraces to that demand, because we basically want to score these levels, right? When that price retraces back to that demand, we know that, okay, this demand zone did not accomplish anything. It did not remove supply, right? So therefore, we know that that demand zone is not strong. We know the score for that demand zone is low. So we know the chances of taking a trade at that zone is not going to be high probability, right? So it's a simple rule, right? So let me write it out. For supply or demand to be valid, one of the zones must remove a opposing zone, right? An opposing zone. So let me make this big and bold, right, for everybody to see, right? For supply or demand to be valid, one of the zones must remove an opposing zone, right? That is one of the confluences for supply and demand, right? If supply or demand doesn't remove a zone, that is not considered valid, right? It's low probability, right? So basically, when you're back testing, you would go back in time and you would just watch zone be removed. You know, watch new zones appear, and then watch when they remove a previous zone to validate that zone, right? So let me just do that was a demand, validating a demand scenario. Right, so let me do it for supply. So let's say we have let's see, we have a rally, a base, and a rally, right? No. Yes. Oh, well, this is demand, but still. Yes, we're looking at this zone as potential demand, right? Potential. Right? Now, in order for us to figure out if that demand removed the previous zone, we have to look at the history of price. So we have to, from this point here, we have to go back in time, right? Go back in time to look to see if the market removed that previous zone, right? So let's say the market was moving something like this. So let's say this continued, right? Right. So let's say the market was something like this, right? Now, this is where the new CP zone is created, the rally-based rally, right? We know that that's a potential zone, but in order for us to confirm that zone, in order for us to feel confident when the market retraces back to that zone to go long, right? In order for us to know that the zone is valid, we have to go back in time to see if and when did the market remove a previous zone, right? So let's just draw the valid zone. So we have this zone here also, right? Because why? Market rallied and it removed let's just imagine it had our opposing zone somewhere in the back here. Let's just imagine it had a supply zone, a demand zone somewhere far in the back here, right? And the market, when it rallied base drop, it removed this zone here. So the zones that was removed, we're just gonna put them in gray, right? So we have two valid supply zones, right? Just to make things clear, right? Because this is supply. Right, this is supply, right? No, when the market came up and made that rally-based rally, demand, it removed these previous zones, these two zones, right? It removed those zones, and that is when. So this is just the zone extended out, right? Right. So this demand removed these previous supply zones. So that's when we would consider, okay, the demand is valid. Why? Because it accomplished something. What did it accomplish? It removed previous supply, right? Same way, is the same way the other way around, right? In order to validate supply, that supply zone would have had to remove a demand zone, right? And that's just the foundation. That's just the basics. You're gonna learn the rest in the next classes, like what else you need to validate the zone, because there are several rules when it comes to validating supply and demand zone, right? It depends on the time frame, it depends on the location of the zone, right? And it depends on what did that zone accomplish. So for today, we just on what did that zone accomplish, right? So yeah, so we know for supply and demand to be valid, one of the zone must remove the opposing zones, right? And we know every time frame has their own zone. So we have zones nested within zones, right? So let's just hop on the chat and see if we could find some examples. Okay, so we're on the weekly time frame here, right? On oil, right? So we're just gonna take the extreme zones and the zones that look tradable, right? So just coming down in the price, we have this zone, right? This supply zone here, because it probably removed a demand zone over here, right? And we have this supply zone over here, right? So right here, we have a rally, base, rally, right? On the daily time frame. Because on the daily time frame, we could see the market went sideways. It consolidated, right? It went sideways. It rallied, it base, and it consolidated. So this whole zone here was consolidation, right? So we know now, okay, from the time this candle departed, right? From the time this candle departed, we knew that, okay, this is a potential zone, right? It's a potential zone, the rally base rally, potential, right? Basically, let me see if I can. Okay, so we know this is a potential zone, right? Rally base rally. Now, this zone isn't valid until it accomplishes what? It removes another zone, right? It removes supply. So this is supply, right? So we observe the price. Okay, right? At this moment, supply was removed. So let's just turn that gray because we're considering that used up supply, right? We know when the market reach back to that price, all the supply at that price is gone. So we just expect the market to fly through that price, right? So now we have demand, right? Demand, a CP demand, as a matter of fact, rally-based rally, demand, valid, right? We have supply. So now we ask ourselves, who is in control, supply or demand? We know demand just remove supply, so we know demand is in control, right? On the weekly time frame, that rally-based rally, right? So now we say, okay, when the price comes back down, we're gonna enter the trade, right? Because our confluences align. So from that time, you could set up your buy limit. You enter a few pips before the base, and you stop loss a few pips. A few pips under the base, right? And you take profit right at the next supply level, or you leave it open, right? So then we wait for the market to come back down if you're trading the weekly time frame. Okay, boom, the trade entered, right? Now, me explaining this, I make it look very simple, but really and truly, it takes a lot of practice to be able to identify these scenarios, right? It takes a lot of practice. So take your time, take your time. Even though you learn this today, we still gonna be practicing it for the next few weeks, like once you had the strategy down, we just gonna be practicing, right?
Kishal,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So regarding that same candle that would have taken out the supply zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know sometimes we kind of don't consider the wicks and seeing that it's more of a wick than a candle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because, well, I know this is the weekly time frame. Is it because of the weekly time frame we will consider using the wick as a takeout rather than a piece of a candle or a candle itself taking out the zone?
Well, when it comes to supply and demand, the wick could take out the zone. But when it comes to the trend line, then we need an entire candle on the other side.
Okay. And even if you go down to 4 and stuff, you consider a wick to take out a zone?
As long as the market passes the zone by 1 pip, even if it passes just for a second and come back down, then we consider that zone used up.
As a takeout. Okay, cool.
So let me speed it up. But yeah, so all right, so let's see if we could find another scenario, right? We have rally, base drop. Okay, so here we had, okay, let's say this was a zone right here, right? We're just following the rules mechanically. Let's say this was a zone right here, right? That zone, for example, was removed, right? It was removed. we're not judging, we're not saying if it was a supply, a demand zone or not, right? But this is just an example. The zone was removed, right? Here we had a reaction. Here we had the zone being removed, right? So what would happen? You would, this supply zone here would not be valid, right? It would not be valid to go short, right? But you know, like there's a lot of other things to take into consideration, right? But for now, we're just going off the idea of one zone removing the opposing zone to validate that supply and demand zone, right? Okay, so here we actually, you saw this, right? You actually had that reaction. You had that reaction, right? Your take profit for that setup would have been something like this. Stop loss above the opposing zone, take profit down to the previous zone, right? Now you could close out earlier if you want. Okay, so here we had that zone removed. The market only dropped a few pips, right? So let's just keep following the rules mechanically, just to see if this confluence alone actually has power in the market, right? So this was also a zone here, right? Because we had that drop, pull back, drop, removed, right? Now, even though the market removed the zone like this, right? Drop, rally base, drop, right? Even though you might look at this setup and you would say, okay, well, this was a zone that removed that zone, right? But if this zone didn't like react off of the zone above, then we consider that zone above here also responsible for removing that zone, right? And this zone right here is also responsible for removing this zone because it was just one big move, even though it went down in a zigzag motion, right? Is one motion down, right? Right? There was one motion down. So here, when this zone is removed, the market reacted off of the second zone, right? But now we have a a demand zone right here because this previous zone, I'll just put this in gray, was removed, right? Now I know people seeing this for the first time. It looks hard, but you know, with practice, it gets easier. Okay, so here we had a rally, base rally, right? And that rally, base rally, removed zones. So we're gonna put these zones I was removed in gray. And take into consideration, we still have this this zone right here. Yeah? Okay, so now we have rally base rally. Okay, so you see the market actually reacts to those zones, right? It reacts, right? It might react for 100, 200 pips. You know, you grab what you can, you leave the rest to run, right? By the end of the day, you're seeing the market reacting to these zones, right? So let's continue. All right, so we're going to go back in time, mark our zone so that we know when our zone is removed, right? This zone here was our drop base drop. So now we see that this zone was removed. Who was responsible for such an act, right? Demand. Okay, wow. I mean, you could just see, you know, once you follow these rules, you could just see how the market is reacting to those zones, right? You can actually see that, okay, the strategy working, right? Because the market is reacting off those demand zones when they accomplish this task, right? When they accomplish removing the supply, right? So just a reference. Let's see how much pips this was. Okay, so this was like probably like 1,000 pips. It has to be 1,000 pips, right? It's from 64 to 74, right? So 1,000 pips. And that's because you're on the weekly time frame. So it's gonna be a lot of pips if you trade the weekly time frame, right? Okay, boom. So here we have demand removed. Who was responsible? Supply, right? We have a drop, base drop, because this is a basing candle right here. These are basing candles. So we consider these supply, right? Okay, so here we had drop, base, drop, right? So this should have been supply, but it was removed. So put it in gray, right? Who was responsible for removing that supply? This demand, right? All this is right now is just training your eyes, right? So this is also a reason why we enter a few pips early. Because a lot of the times the market may come near the zone, but it may not actually touch that zone, right? So this here, this is actually considered a zone, right? This area right here, right? Because this here is a rally based rally, right? That was removed because this is a basing candle here. So this was supply, right? Drop, base, drop. It was a basing candle. It had to identify on the weekly, but if you drop down to the daily, you would see the market base right there, right? So we're just gonna drop down to the daily to actually see that base, right? So we had a set of basing candles here, and then we had a base here. But you know, according to the rules, according to the weekly time frame, according to the rules of a base, less than 50% candle was a drop, base, drop, right? That was removed, right? By this zone, and then this zone was removed by this zone, right? And then the market reacted twice off of that zone over there, right? Okay, so we're here at present day. We're here at present day. The market removed this zone here. And right now we're at a weekly demand zone, right? So basically this zone right here, this zone at the bottom here, did a lot of damage, right? This zone right here removed a lot of supply, right? Because the price, when the price did this drop base rally, it rallied, right? From here all the way to up here, right? That's how far it went. Removing several supply zones, right? So that's why when you see the market came into this zone, it reacted. This is the weekly zone. This whole purple area is the weekly zone. Where you see I have this black line drawn, that's actually the daily zone, right? The daily extreme zone. So this here, this small little area here is the daily zone. The small little yellow area. So the market came down, tapped that zone, and reacted back up, right? So right now, one of two things can happen, right? Basically, the market could remove this zone, and then this drop base drop will be validated, right? Well, it might actually be already be valid. Yeah. But right now, you have to be cautious because demand is in control. You want to go with what's in control. If demand is in control, then you're expecting supply to be removed. If supply is in control, then you're expecting demand to be removed, right? So what would happen for this pair? We just wait and watch how the price develops on the lower time frame. And then we determine, okay, who's now in control, supply or demand? Is demand removing supply? Is supply removing demand? And once you figure out that, then you know which direction you're going. And then where are you going to enter that trade? You're going to enter that trade when supply or demand presents that opportunity, right? So let me get an example I was watching today. So right. This is a trade from one of the trading journals, right? This is a signal I sent out on November 20th, 2019, right? Here, look what I said. Here we have a setup on USD CAD, short. It follows our rules. However, according to the CRT report, banks are short on oil, which is inversely related to CAD, right? So, in supply and demand, the rules of supply and demand, you don't take anything else into consideration but supply and demand. So you don't take news into consideration. You don't take what's going on in the world in consideration. You only take the patterns on the chart, right? So here we have a supply zone, right? On USD CAD. We have a supply zone, right? That zone is validated because we had that impulse away, right? Strong impulse away, accomplished many things, including the removal of demand, right? So the trade started off with you enter a few pips before supply, stop loss above, and you take profit down at the next demand zone, right? You press play, and you can see how the market reacted. The market came down. It came down for 234 pips, right? It reacted off a higher time frame zone. So this is a daily time frame. This weekly, this blue area here is probably a weekly or monthly demand zone. So the market reacted off of that zone. We had that rally, right? Rally, base rally. That rally, base rally, removed this newly created zone that's here, right? So that newly created zone would have been like from this area, come right across, right below the zone here. So that zone is removed, and now we have a new demand zone right here, right? This area here, this rally base rally, and then the price reacted off of it and went to the moon, right? So let's see, let's actually pull up USD CAD and see. Okay, so here we had the zone, right? And then we had the supply, right? And then we had the rally, base rally, right? So we're gonna take it from this basing candle right here. This is a basing candle. This zone could have actually been drawn like this, right? Because we had that base, that rally, base rally, right? But for safety, we don't just take the entire zone, the zone on top of the zone, right? So then we had that reaction. Which removed previous zones, also. So now, this was a rally of, let's say, 500 pips, right? Over the period of a month. So now we have a new zone created. So what we're gonna do, we wait for the market to close above, and then once the market retraces back down, we can look for longs in this area, right? To go long. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna take a look at one of the trades we took last week, right? So here we have a large spike on the daily time frame, a spike of thousands of pips, right? So that's called a flash crash, which happens every once in a while. It happens for several reasons. Either the banks doing some manipulation or some crazy event happened in the world that just caused the market to spike, right? When this happened, all the traders who had trades, obviously their stop loss was hit. All who don't have stop loss, they have a negative balance, But yeah, so here we had the market going up. We had a rally, base, drop, base, rally, right? Now the reason why this this trade was valid was because this was the rally, right? This was the valley. It removed this supply, right? This was supply. It's not that pretty, I know. And this supply was responsible for removing this demand, right? This supply was responsible for removing this demand, right? So now we had a drop, base, rally, right? And that rally removed this supply. Now we have to look at the origin of the move. The origin is at the valley. The valley is the drop, base, rally, right? This was the drop, base, rally. If you did your homework, piece of cake. So we just wait for the market to retrace back to that level, which was this area here. This is the daily the zone, the red, yeah, that's the daily zone. The red highlighted area is the daily demand. The purple highlighted area is the weekly demand, right? So then the trade was sent out at the daily demand, right? The trade was sent out at that daily demand, and then the market rallied several hundred pips, right? Let's say we're not taking that spike into consideration. Even if we don't take that spike into consideration, the market rose 700 pips, right? To the next quarterly level. The next quarterly level being $2. From that entry, the market rose 700 pips, right? So that's just the power of supply and demand. So let me show you another example of a trade that I found, but I didn't send it in the group, right? USD JPY, right? Here we have that drop, rally, base, drop, rally, base, drop, right? Now there are several supply and demand levels on this chart. The most strongest being the origin of the ones that created the biggest impulse. So this would be one right here, right? And this is why we want to enter a trade a little earlier, because you see the market didn't come right up into this zone. And then now we have this zone. Now from the time USD JPY got to that weekly demand, which also had daily extreme demand. I mean supply. My bad. We see the market react to that zone, right? We see the market drop down. I don't know, hundreds of pips, 800 pips, 1,000 pips, right? Now I miss out on this trade. I found this trade as usual. I entered it and then I wasn't patient and I closed the trade early. But still, even if you had entered $1 a pip, $1,000, $10 a pip, $10,000, So you have to be patient and wait for the best setups. This is why we trade the higher time frame with supply and demand, because the higher time frame gives us the most pip, the most result. So the confluences, yes, you find supply and demand levels on 4 hour, 1 hour, 1 minute, 5 minutes. But when you're trying to catch the really good moves, the big moves, if you could find a setup with weekly supply, monthly supply, daily supply, you're at the beginning of a great long trend, right? In either direction. So that's why it's key to master supply and demand, right? It's not that hard. It's just a set of mechanical rules. Mechanical rules meaning once the market does this, this is what you do. It's not about what you think. It's not about emotion. You write down your rules, right? If the market removes supply, then demand is valid. Once the market retraces to demand, you buy. You don't think, you buy. Once it follows the rules, right? That's what we mean by mechanical, meaning that a robot could do it, right? Even if, it don't look good. It don't look good. Still, did it follow the rules? Yes. So you take the trade. So any questions on this topic we did today? Basically, for supply demand to be valid, one zone must remove an opposing zone. Any questions?
I just have one question.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, removing the zones, does it have to remove a valid zone to be valid, or is it just an area where it bases and it removes that base and it's considered valid?
That's a very good question. Not all the time, you'd have zones that was weak or zones that was not really valid and the market remove it. But for you to be confident in your trade, right? And if you want to follow the mechanical rules, I would say only take zones that remove valid zones, right? Because that gives you more confluence and the odds are in your favor.
Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense.
So I guess everybody on this call understand supply and demand, how to validate supply and demand. All right, so for homework, draw some examples of supply and demand being validated, right? You can either go on the chart or you can draw it with a pen and a paper, right? Or just draw that whole scenario. And I go even do it and drop in some scenarios, right? You want to draw one way, supply removes demand. You should probably do it with every type of supply and demand. So drop, base, drop, rally, base, rally, base, drop, base, rally, right? That's just, it's training. If you do it, you training your eyes to see it, you're going to be better, right? These last month or so, these last few weeks, the market been kind of messed up. But, once you stick to your plan, you stick to your goals, you're going to prevail, right? So, we're going to stop the call right here. Let me stop recording.